Hello there, and thank you for tuning in to the latest edition of Just an Opinion. Today, I'm going to discuss my top 10 favorite films of director Alfred Hitchcock. We all know that films are a collaborative work with many contributors, but at the same time, some are rightfully recognized as the author of the work, or rather, the auteur. Thus, the picture is identified as, say, an Alfred Hitchcock movie, transcending genre. This is due to recurring themes represented, the tone, how it is shot, and many other things. Alfred Hitchcock, the master of suspense, is perhaps the most studied, influential, and quite frankly, copied director of all time. There is this tangible presence of his authorship when viewing his works. Each of his films and the director himself is worthy of a dedicated study. And with such a wide body of work, even when compiling my own list of what I consider his top 10 works, I realized that there are several that I still need to watch. Number 10 is The Birds. This selection is a bit more straightforward, yet still pretty mysterious, involving a series of sudden and unprovoked attacks on humans by varying species of birds. An obvious influence on the influx of When Nature Attacks films of the 1970s, including the blockbuster Jaws. This film is larger in scale than many works of Hitchcock, focusing on a whole community affected by this phenomenon. Still a good amount of psychological undertones regarding a broken family, an unconventional love story, and a man's odd relationship with his mother. Number 9 is The Wrong Man. Henry Fonda leads this work as a good man wrongfully accused of an armed robbery.
You calling me?
Is your name Christopher Emmanuel Ballestero?
Yes, it is.
We want to speak to you. We're police officers.
What about?
We'd like you to come down to the precinct and help us out a little.
I'm just getting home. I'd like to tell my wife if I'm going anyplace.
Well, you better come along and tell her later.
Hitchcock often explored the motif of one person being misidentified as someone else. The narrative then being the protagonist on the run from the accusers, or in this example, trying to prove his innocence. The audience knows that Fonda is not guilty, but vicariously shares his paranoia and sense of helplessness when all of the evidence points to his involvement in the crime.
There's been a number of hold-ups in this neighborhood, all pulled off by one man. Certain people have come forward with descriptions of that man. And it's been brought to our attention that you fit the description.
I fit the description?
That's right.
Of the hold-up man?
Yep.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Sure. Not from what you said.
There is not necessarily a twist in this picture, but more so a growing feeling of doom, gradually lessening the notion that justice will prevail. Number 8 is Strangers on a Train. A murder plot is integral to endless films, but with Hitchcock, you're guaranteed a dynamic narrative when that is the focal point. Two strangers meet on a train, and one suggests that each murders someone tormenting the other, thus alleviating each from any motive.
Each fellow does the other fellow's murder, then there's nothing to connect them. Each one has murdered a total stranger. Like, you do my murder, I do yours.
We're coming into my station.
For example, your wife, my father. Crisscross. What?
The film is extremely stylized all around, from the dialogue right down to the killing scenes.
Is your name Miriam?
Oh, yes. How did you...
The two protagonists split the audience's sympathy as you find yourself rooting for each despite both the decent and malicious intentions of each. Number 7 is Notorious. While Alfred Hitchcock's name was renowned in Hollywood, many of his flicks featured the elites of the industry, in this case Cary Grant, Ingrid Bergman, and Claude Rains.
Oh, please, Alex.
You love him.
No, of course not. Please go.
For what it's worth, as an apology, your wife is telling the truth. I knew her before you, loved her before you, but I wasn't as lucky as you. Sorry, Alicia.
Please go.
Good night.
Notorious involves a complicated love story, coupled with a spy thriller. The suspense is built with the camera work, which almost pokes the audience on what to pay attention to.
It's not that I don't trust you. But when you're in love at my age, every man who looks at your woman is a menace. Will you forgive me for even talking about it? I'm very contrite.
Hitchcock showed his authorship, letting the audience know what the characters don't know. Number 6 is Shadow of a Doubt. Hitchcock was known for very grand films, but this one takes place in modern America's suburbia. A seemingly good man visits his sister's family, but his niece slowly realizes that her beloved uncle is harboring some deep, dark secrets.
Well, now I know there was something in the evening paper about you.
About me in the evening paper?
About you. And that's why you played that game with Ann and Roger. You didn't want us to know and you wanted to tear the paper. Now I know, you might as well tell me.
Well, you've got me there, Charlie.
There.
It's none of your business.
Once again, the audience's sympathy is split between the hope that the criminal can remain hidden in plain sight or exposed by his sleuthing niece.
You think you're the clever little girl who knows something. There's so much you don't know. So much. What do you know, really? You're just an ordinary little girl living in an ordinary little town.
This film personified the horrors that were sometimes hidden behind the utopian facade of the suburbs, and for trivia's sake, it was actually Hitchcock's favorite of all his flicks. Number 5 is North by Northwest. Cary Grant and Eva Marie Saint lead this amazing thriller. The plot is underway with a simple case of mistaken identity, and it is a roller coaster ride the entire time, featuring some elaborate chase sequences. Grant absolutely shines in this flick as its leading man.
Stop!
Oh, excuse me.
Stop.
He was certainly no stranger to a romantic lead, nor showcasing his action film chops. But I think that some of the subtle comedy goes unnoticed, most notably with his bickering with his mother.
No, Mother, I have not been drinking. No, these two men, they poured a whole bottle of bourbon into me. No, they didn't give me a chaser. No.
Oh, how Hitchcock loved to focus on the relationship of his male characters with their mothers. Number 4 is Rebecca. This was Hitchcock's first American film. On the surface, it's a tale of unlikely love between a young personal servant and a wealthy aristocrat. But the romance starts to reveal shades of gray and even black when his new bride discovers the palpable presence his deceased wife still has within his home.
Do you think the dead come back and watch the living?
I don't believe it.
Sometimes. I wonder if she doesn't come back here to Manderley. Watch you and Mr. De Winter together.
Hitchcock focused on identity issues within this piece. The new bride feeling like a child in her new home. This is enhanced with the camera's forced perception.
could we be close when I knew you were always thinking of Rebecca? How could I even ask you to love me when I knew you loved Rebecca still?
Number 3 is Rear Window. I don't believe you could find a better example of psychology in film than you can with this feature. Jimmy Stewart is flawless as our protagonist, a photographer confined to a wheelchair who becomes obsessed with watching the people in the building across from him.
Miss Lonely Hearts. Well, at least that's something you'll never have to worry about.
Oh? You can see my apartment from here all the way up on 63rd Street?
No, not exactly, but we have a little apartment here that's probably about as popular as yours. You remember, of course, Miss Torso, the ballet dancer?
It's all innocent until he believes that he witnessed a murder. Voyeurism is the focal point in this picture. Even the audience questions their own obsession with people watching in a movie watching sense.
What's she trying to do? Why don't she turn him in?
She's a smart girl.
Smart girl, she'll get herself arrested.
It'll get her out of there, won't it? Look, the wedding ring. Turn out the light, he's seen it.
Number 2 is Psycho. Probably Hitchcock's most recognizable work that still continues to influence horror cinema today. You know, with the The beauty of this flick is how you view it completely differently after the first time. The MacGuffin comes heavily into play with how Hitchcock throws off the audience with what the focal point is.
I'm very tired, and I'll have a long drive tomorrow, all the way back to Phoenix.
Really?
I stepped into a private trap back there, and I'd like to go back and try to pull myself out of it. Before it's too late for me, too.
And horror cinema adopted the character attribute of referring to someone as the Janet Leigh character, ergo, someone who you think is the protagonist who actually perishes within the first act. There is just so much to unpack with this flick, it's really hard to know where to start. It really is iconic. Number 1 is Vertigo. I will say, it took me a few viewings to fully appreciate this work. It is haunting, romantic, and also disturbing, considering how much it pushes the envelope. The idea of the double comes into play when Jimmy Stewart finds someone who resembles his deceased lover. While I've discussed mistaken identity in a few of Hitchcock's works already, this piece delves into what I would call forced identity, as Stewart tries to make his new love into the image of his former.
Oh, I think I know the suit you mean. We had it some time ago. Let me go and see. We may still have that model.
Thank you.
You're looking for the suit that she wore for me. You want me to be dressed like her.
Judy, I just want you to look nice. I know the kind of a suit that'll look well on you.
No, I won't do it.
This movie plays into our fantasies and nightmares a bit with the hope of recovering someone we lost, but also the possibility of reliving the trauma of loss once again. Thank you so much for watching, and please do leave a comment. I'll be back soon, but I'm going to shift the discussion to television, and I'm going to talk about the short-lived series, The Torkelsons. I hope you check it out.